Hello, my name is Chrissy Hodges. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. I am a certified peer support specialist. I work with individuals all around the world to provide support as well as referral consultations if you are looking for a therapist for OCD and anxiety. I'm the co-founder of OCD Peers, right back here, OCDpeers.com. We run groups every single day to jump in and to help get support in living with OCD and anxiety, and I am the author of Pure OCD. Pure OCD is the community name for individuals who live with intrusive thoughts and mental rituals. If you are looking for therapy, OCD is an app, but they also provide therapy here in the States, in every single state. You can go to treatmyocd.com or check out in my description below the link, click on it to get an assessment. So you're probably thinking, you already did a video on this, what are you doing? Well, or you're probably thinking, I'm coming to this video to find out whether I really have OCD or not. I ain't got the key. That is not, I'm just here talking about a topic that is so prevalent and that everybody struggles with. What if I don't have OCD and the thoughts are real? Do I really have OCD? How do I figure out if I have OCD? Because here's the thing. The question of whether you have OCD or not will inevitably become part of your OCD. So for me, and for a lot of people, so I lived with OCD for many, many years, not having a diagnosis, not having any idea what was going on. And then when I finally did get the diagnosis, 12 years later, my first thought was, this is not OCD because I don't wash my hands and I am not organized. So that was the first thing. I also felt some relief that maybe this was something, not that I could blame it on, but at least it wasn't me and I wasn't this horrible, ridiculous person that couldn't figure out whether things were real or not. But then quickly went into, well, that relief has just disappeared. And what if this really isn't OCD and these thoughts are real? What if I'm the only person that checks almost every single box about OCD, but then I'm going to prove that the intrusive thoughts really are real? So this is such a common secondary fear, and it's such a common whirlpool we can get stuck in. And I mean, the reason why is this: we are constantly looking for proof, aren't we? I mean, that's the whole premises of OCD. It is, I need certainty, which is unattainable. I say that and not to try to make you feel like it's daunting and that life can't ever be good without having certainty, but our brains work with the incessant need for certainty, which we can never get. So when we're looking for the certainty with the intrusive thoughts, even if we find out inadvertently, this is OCD and these intrusive thoughts aren't really real. I'm saying that in quotes, meaning this is how I was interpreting it for me. So that intrusive thoughts aren't real, which they were real. The thoughts were real. That doesn't necessarily mean the content isn't real, but I was like, okay, so the thoughts aren't real, and I have this disorder over here, OCD. Well, then I move from this over to, well, what if the OCD isn't real? Naturally, because there is no certainty. I mean, I got the diagnosis of OCD, but I didn't believe it. I mean, the first time I ever wrote Phillipson and said, this is what I'm experiencing, can you help me or can we meet? I sent the email and just braced myself for him to write me back and say, I'm not going to meet with you because this does not sound like OCD. I cannot help you. And you really are your intrusive thoughts. And then he wrote back and said, sure, let's meet. And then of course I was, nail biting for the next 3 days to meet him so he would assess me and then find out it really wasn't OCD over and over and over and over, right? So, and throughout throughout especially the first few sessions of meeting with him, I was testing his ability to give me reassurance. Do you really think I have OCD, or do you really think these thoughts are real? And of course, Y'all, if y'all know anything about Phillipson, he was just like, maybe they are real. Maybe you are this. Maybe you are that, which taught me really quickly, you don't do that with Phillipson. But what I want to tell you today is that fear, I want to tell you that fear has never subsided, which then tells me that it's part of the OCD cycle. I have had themes from, as y'all most know, from the fear of vomiting, through sexual orientation, through religious scrupulosity, through possession of the devil, through ROCD, through POCD, through, oh my God, every health OCD under the planet, through real event OCD and OCD in real events. And one constant remains. I doubt in every single theme, is this really OCD or not? That is the constant. So one of the things that I've done is taken that constant, not as proof. I need to be careful about what I say here. I've taken that constant, not as proof or certainty, but as an indication. If every theme comes up and I'm doing the same compulsions, which is also part of my pattern, but I'm also thinking the same thing every time. I don't think this is OCD this time. It feels too real this time. It feels like this actually might be when the intrusive thoughts are real, and I'm using OCD as an excuse. I'm gonna write that down and talk about that in a minute. Then I can logically say to myself when this stuff pops up, this feeling, these questions seem familiar. I've had these every single time a theme pops up. That doesn't mean I'm going to believe it, y'all. I'm not going to 100% buy in and go, okay, it's OCD, yay life. No, that's not the way it is. But I can safely assume that if I'm having the same feelings, the same thoughts, the same everything, I can safely assume that it's OCD. And then I can start doing the work that I know and was taught by my therapist on how to do exposure response prevention and or cutting out the rumination to be able to get it under control. So I use it now as an indicator. I don't use it as proof. I use it as this feeling feels familiar. It always shows up every time a theme does. So now I know what to do. So I wrote this down. Oh my, I'm using this as an excuse and I really don't have OCD. This is a big one, y'all. And I feel this and I hear this a lot. It is okay, I have somewhat, because we never 100% buy in that it's OCD, but well, at least I don't, because you can't have certainty and then that opens the door to compulsions. But I've somewhat bought in that this could possibly be OCD. I've recognized that I'm doing all these compulsions, the intrusive thoughts aren't aligned with my values, yada, yada, yada. But what if I'm using OCD as an excuse? And these thoughts are really mine. And this is what I really want. This is the torture, because then you're like turning on yourself. And then you're going to yourself, I don't even know how to trust myself or what I'm using the excuse for. It gets like so convoluted and knots that it's like, well, why would I use something as an excuse if I really don't want it in the first place? But maybe I don't even know I'm using an excuse and I'm lying to myself and then I'm lying to my provider. And we go down the rabbit hole. If y'all follow me on Instagram, you know every once in a while I post these posts. If you are on Instagram, you don't follow me. I'm at Pure O'Chrissy. And I love posting those posts of like, only OCD would tell you that you were actually lying to yourself and you don't really believe that you have OCD, but you're telling yourself that you're having OCD, but it's really an excuse because you really are afraid that the intrusive thoughts are real and you just need the excuse so you don't find out that you're a horrible person and it's really not OCD. Everything you believe is a lie. It's all this, I mean, you can't even call it a rabbit hole at this point. You know, all you can call it is like, I don't know what, a bad landscaping job. Like you go down every single hole and every single avenue and it all gets crisscrossed. Why? Because everything that your brain is going to do when you are searching for certainty is going to come at you to try to show you that there's some reason you need to keep looking. There's some reason you need to stay in the cycle when the freedom is to let the cycle go. We don't need certainty. In fact, we don't need certainty about whether we do have OCD or we don't. I know that's hard to hear, and I know that's not what you want to hear. I don't even want to say it, to be honest with you, and I hate feeling that way. When sometimes, especially like when I was struggling the last couple years and I had very low insight. I don't think I've ever experienced OCD the way that I have before. And my insight was so low, and I just bought into this cannot be OCD. I'm just using OCD as an excuse, which of course took a major hit on my self-esteem and self-worth. But I hate hearing that. And I hate saying that, but it is the truth. If we are 100% searching for the rest of our lives, whether or not our intrusive thoughts are real, whether or not we really have OCD or not, that in itself is going to become an obsession. And we're also going to keep chasing after something that we can never catch. Now, this is not reassurancy, but it might sound kind of like it. If you visit with an OCD specialist, someone who treats OCD with exposure response prevention, acceptance commitment therapy, they have a proven track record of treating OCD and they diagnose you with OCD, you've got to trust the process. You've got to trust the professionals, even though you want to question them with 10,000 questions about why you don't have OCD. I mean, literally, we are the only illness, I think, that when we actually get diagnosis or we actually find out that we have OCD, that we then start arguing to the death that we really don't have it. And it's not because we don't want to have it because there's a bad consequence. We're arguing because we really just we refuse to believe that we have it. Because we think we're bad people. It doesn't make sense. But again, OCD doesn't make sense. And that's what I want you to hear. It doesn't make sense because we continue to try to solve it logically. So logically, we would think, if I got the diagnosis of OCD, yay, I got the diagnosis. Now I know I have it. And now let me just go on to treatment and everything is going to be good. It doesn't work that way because that just opens up the floodgates for the reasons why you don't have OCD. And so you can choose to swim upstream in those floodgates and go, I refuse to just go down the waterfall and get completely saturated, in the current, or just making the decision. I'm going to choose to believe that this is OCD. I'm going to, and again, like I said earlier, I manage behaviors. If I'm continually asking the same thing, if I'm continually doing the same compulsions, even in regards of, is this really OCD this time? Or am I just really this, or the intrusive thoughts real or not? And I'm talking about even on a daily basis with everyday decisions. I sometimes question whether things are OCD even just because I'm ruminating about something. I still take the risk and live with the uncertainty. Maybe it isn't OCD or maybe it is, but I'm not going to know the answer to that question. All I can do is monitor and change my behaviors. And that's the part when I said earlier, we continue to try to solve this by logic. We have to be mindful of our behaviors. Our behaviors drive OCD, which is why immediately and upon finding out that this might be OCD, then you go, uh-oh, I'm the one person that doesn't. The behavior is the same. You're responding the same way. You're questioning it. Then you're ruminating. Then you're mentally reviewing. Then you're avoiding or whatever else. Monitor those behaviors. That's your indicator. And when it's your when you figure out, I do this every single time, then that's when you can start saying, okay, the next time that happens, I'm going to recognize it and I'm going to reduce that compulsive behavior in order to reduce the distress. So you may have come here today going, she's going to tell me whether I do or don't have OCD. I can't do that. I mean, I could sit here all day and say, you do have OCD. If you do this, you do have OCD. You click off this video and you'd be like, but I do this and she didn't mention that. Right? I mean, I would do that too. I would even watch this video back and be like, do I have OCD? Why did she say that? And it would be me saying it. Because that's the nature of OCD. And unfortunately, there isn't going to be, I mean, you know, that's why even if there was like a test for OCD and it came back positive, you still wouldn't believe it. The same way people go and get tested for AIDS, or they go and get tested for certain things and they're looking at the test results and they're like, I don't believe this. Because OCD is not going to let you believe it. And OCD is not going to let you believe that this is OCD 100%. You can safely assume that, and you know what? Sometimes that's good enough. Because the more you're chasing the answer that there is no answer to, the more stuck you get into this cycle, and you're just adding another layer on top of intrusive thoughts of needing to know, do I have OCD or not? Because if I find that out, it's going to make everything else go away. And there's just not an answer. But you know what? You're in good company. There's lots of us out there that struggle with this. There's lots of us out there that wish we had the answer, and we don't. And I hope that this video has helped you feel a little bit more normalized and a little bit more of an understanding of why I can't just settle into knowing I do have OCD. And that means the intrusive thoughts aren't real. That means that this I'm not a bad person, and all of the things that OCD tells you that you are and that you aren't. I'm here to tell you, you belong to this community. You matter. Your intrusive thoughts do not define you. Yes, the thoughts are real, but you do not have to buy into that content being real or being a reflection of you. You can make that choice. Monitor your behaviors. Reduce your compulsions. If you're looking for treatment in the States, treatmyocd.com. Check out the link in my description below. Follow my page on Instagram. There's also the OCDstories.com. There's madeofmillions.com, Stephen Phillipson at OCDonline.com. There's a lot of resources and a lot of people who get it. You are not alone. You belong to this community. You matter, and you are worthy. Have a great weekend.